Now we are joined by Mr. Svetlin Iliev, Chairman at Bulgarian Cybersecurity Association. We welcome Mr. Svetlin. Thank you so much for joining us. So without taking much time, over to you, sir.
Thank you very much for the great presentation. I just have one short question. How can I share my presentation?
I think we are in StreamYard, right? Chirag, we are in StreamYard, right? So there is a screen sharing option. You can find at the bottom of the screen.
Okay, let's do this one. I hope you see my presentation. I will work my audio here, so I believe there's some kind of an echo. First of all, thank you very much for having me, inviting me to this prestigious conference. It's been great hearing what other professionals from India are saying. I especially enjoyed the presentation from Dr. Khanna, very great overview of the overall cyber perspective in the world, what are the possible solutions. I will share one more, which we have been working on here in Israel for the past 5 years. But first of all, we've been talking about global cooperation. Why it's so important and why everybody is talking about the partnership and cooperation in cybersecurity. When I was in the university in my master's degree, I remember a professor, he told us that in policy making in general, public policy, there are certain problems which don't have borders. I cannot think of a better description of what is the cyber program or the cybersecurity in general in the world. If we don't cooperate, although it may sound as a cliche, we still have no chance in front of the threat actors or in general in the malicious activities on our opponents. Public-private partnership is one thing we're doing in the Bulgarian Cybersecurity Association and also with the European Cybersecurity Organization. In basic terms, what is our solution? How do we see this cooperation, although on a regional and national level? It's a very simple thing. We try to gain the trust between different stakeholders, the consumers, the providers of cybersecurity solutions, and of course the state. Why? People usually ask me why the consumers. We've been discussing here solutions mainly for state actors, for large companies, financial companies, banks, etc. But at least in Europe, over 90% of the economy is built from small and medium enterprises. And it's a must in our solutions, in our efforts to defend that kind of infrastructure, because as previous speakers mentioned, some of the critical infrastructure is not only state-owned, it's at least in Bulgaria, most of Europe, it's private owned. And nowadays we see that some critical infrastructure, critical service providers are actually small and medium enterprises or small and medium caps. But that's my little introduction. What I wanted to introduce you here, because it was told I have 5 minutes, so now I have only 3 minutes. It's what is Europe doing, or at least wants to see in the next 6 years until the 2020s decade is over. In Europe, we call that the digital decade. What Europe basically is focusing on 3 pillars in the strategy for the digital decade. We focus on the resilience, technological sovereignty, and leadership, building operational capacity to prevent the terror and response, and cooperation to advance the global and open cyberspace. As we see here, again, cooperation and moderation aspect in the cybersecurity. It was interesting to see that in India, it's been a team of experts is working also on the legislative part of how to protect the critical infrastructure. In Europe, we have the so-called Network and Information Security Directive, or NIS, implemented in 2018-2019. And now, since we saw some insufficiencies in that directive, we introduced the NIS 2. What it's basically saying in this directive is that we need to protect our critical infrastructure, but again, as I mentioned, not only publicly owned critical infrastructure, not only the big privately owned companies, but also the small medium enterprises. Think about key research centers, R&D centers, which are comprised of 50, 100 people. Think about small municipalities, which, of course, the size is very different in India, but in Bulgaria and some small countries in Europe, we have small municipalities which are the administration is 300, 400, 500 people. This is critical because many people, we tend to think about cybersecurity mainly on state level, but many people in their regular lives depend on digital services provided by the municipality, provided by the state, or even in the health sector through their phones, through applications, etc. What we did to implement that legislative directive, we have, of course, many others, the Cyber Resiliency Act, the Cyber Defense Agenda, etc., is created a single competence center of cybersecurity, which is located in Bucharest, which for many of you, that's Romania. It might be very surprising because Romania is not famous for its cybersecurity, let's say, capacity compared to countries like France and Germany. But that was a very smart move from the Commission because it tried to push the agenda a little bit east towards East Europe. So this center is coordinating the efforts of every national center in every European Union country. What those centers do, it's something very important, something which I strongly believe. It coordinates the resources and the financing depending on every national state needs. Why is this something very important? I strongly believe that policies, upskilling, education can help a lot in cybersecurity. Maybe we can mitigate over 80-90% of the cyber threat. It depends on the estimations. However, everything should be resource backed. At least in Bulgaria, through the years, great policies, great legislations, which are not backed with the necessary financing. Whether we talk about infrastructure, software, hardware, whether we talk about resources needed to educate the administration or provide enough resources to the universities or TSMEs. Resource-based cybersecurity is very important and necessary for me. It's a must if we want to defend our sites. Of course, we mentioned workforce upskilling. It's a must. At least in Europe, we see a shortage of 2 million people in cybersecurity experts, which we need. And the Commission is working in that area. Building operational capacity to prevent the terror response, that might be more interesting for the technical people among the audience. In Europe, we try to build something in jargon called cybersecurity shield. Apart from the threats, which are, of course, famous around the world, Europe currently is building a network of security operations centers, which are operating on the national level. And again, I'm very happy that we're also having a correlation between what we're saying. The main idea behind those SOCs is information sharing. Threat intelligence is critical in the ever-growing threat landscape. in the outsmart, very smart entities and cybercrime groups which are not so clearly identified. So SOCs and National Network of Security Operation Centers around Europe and something very new is currently being established. So we're planning to see that in the next year. Of course, we have the cybercrime agenda, indispensable part of the cybersecurity. But what I want to point is going back to my point previously on the resource back. The Commission, the European Commission announced a record budget for R&D in technology sphere, of course in the cybersecurity sphere, for the next 5 years, which is comprised of a budget which is 95.5 billion euros. That's a huge sum. And that shows the desire of the Commission to catch up with other world leaders in technology and cybersecurity world. So how is this budget distributed? I don't want to bore you with that. It's a very complex and usually it's a very new bureaucratic manner. Of course, the Europe introduced the cyber defense policy framework. It builds on technologies which are specifically used in the cyber defense in the military world in general. Although it's a different conversation how different, let's say, applications of technology is very different from the business or defense sector. But just to conclude my presentation, because I believe I'm well ahead of my time, cooperation to advance the global and open cyberspace. It's basically the topic of our panel. I just want to introduce you with the European Cybersecurity Organization, of which I have the honor of being in the board of directors. EXO is operating for 7 years now, and it tries to connect the business from all sides. We were talking about APAC, Microsoft, Airbus, etc., from the big European companies, but also we're talking about small and medium enterprises. And not only small and medium enterprises on the providing side of cybersecurity, but also small and medium enterprises on the receiving side of cybersecurity, the importance which I stressed in the beginning. What EXO also does is trying to influence what is here and what national governments are doing in terms of cybersecurity policies, in terms of digitalization policy. And surprisingly, more probably for some of you, it could be surprising, usually what, with all due respect to the government officials here, usually governments don't like being told what to do, especially from private entities. Sometimes they consider that infringing their rights, etc. But surprisingly, with time, what the Commission did is actually they accepted this partnership. The people of the Commission, what is the Commission? It's just an abstract construction. There are people there that work with their counterparts in the private sector. Actually, now we are receiving signals from the European Commission that they lack and they want more dialogue with the cybersecurity world, with big companies, with small companies, how they will design their policies. And that's a very big change in the mindset. In my humble opinion, the cybersecurity world is, if we talk about the technological side, that's clear. The technology is here. Of course, there were growing competition between attack and defense in the cybersecurity world, of course, in the general cybersecurity world. But the change in mindset for me is very important. On how to change your mindset, how to accept the ever-changing world, technologies, policies, and how to read the common people, not everybody can be a cybersecurity expert, on the receiving end of the cybersecurity solution could actually change their mindset, in fact, and be more open to accept the changes in which the world we're living. And with that, I would like to conclude. I hope it was interesting and analysts will discuss what I said in the presentation or engage in further conversations. It's truly a great honor. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much, Svetlin Iliev, Chairman at Bulgarian Cybersecurity Association. And I think a couple of days back also, not you talked about collaboration. I think some of the countries in EU has also agreed to have a greater cooperation to use AI much more responsibly. They have entered into agreement. But I have right, as you have said, the three pillars of EU cybersecurity framework is being sovereign, also capacity building, and how global and open it is, so that they can create that comprehensive cybersecurity framework. Thank you so much, Svetlin, for joining us today from all the way from Bulgaria virtually. Uh, that's also the power of technology. Thank you so much.